Nixon, welcome along to a very, very special webinar all about value pricing, but this one's a bit different. This one is all about three firms who are just kicking it when it comes to pricing professional services, pricing advisory services. So my job today is very much as moderator and question asker. The three firms I have for you are all going to be sharing stories and examples on their journey in changing their entire pricing model working with their clients. So what we'll do first is introduce the three firms that I've selected. The three firms one at a time, and I'll ask them to give a little précis on their firms, size of firm, where they're from, and a brief history on their pricing story. So we're going to start with Tracey Besters from ProView Financial Group. I'll put the websites in there so you can check them out as well. So Tracey, you're from Bowral down in Southern Highlands, New South Wales. Give us a snapshot on your firm, what it looks like, what it does, and broadly your pricing history and success.
Lovely, thanks Robin. Hello to everyone. Look, we are in the Southern Highlands of New South Wales in Bowral, which is a small regional area. We have a sole practitioner essentially. My husband and I are in the business, and we have six team members, a couple of accountants and the rest are admin. We have a holistic approach, so we do accounting, some financial advice and finance and mortgages. And I guess we do a lot of strategy work, particularly around the self-managed super fund space. Our history on pricing was that originally I joined the business about 6 years ago, and originally we were very much just on an hourly rate. And over the time, and particularly since we've joined Proactive Accountants Network, we've more gone to a fixed upfront pricing model.
Okay, and rough size, we've got 5 or 6 people there. Are we more than a mil, less than a mil, Trace?
We did just below a mil last year, Rob, and we're targeting 1.5 for this year.
And what sort of clients do you have? Like, let's understand what's your client base look like?
Sure. So the client base is we have a number of business clients. We started the business years ago with a very large individual client base, and so what we've essentially done is added business clients on top of that. And over the last, I guess, 6 months, particularly 6 to 12 months, we've obtained some really, really decent business clients, and we've been able to restructure those, which is where some of our value pricing has come into play.
Awesome. And one of the reasons I've got you on this webinar is because of the very large project that we'll talk about later on in detail that you consummated just a few weeks back, and that was a $320,000 sale on a value-based fees, which is just awesome.
Thanks, Rob.
And certainly that holds the record, just so you know, at $320,000 within our community. So we've got a regular firm in regional, let's call it regional New South Wales, Tracey Besters from ProView. Now, just to make sure everyone can hear what we're up to here, can you just do a show of hands so we'll get a bit of interactive here? And by the way, you'll have a chance to ask the three accountants here questions as we go through. So just do a show of hands on your panel to make sure you can hear us. That'll be awesome, and my team will let me know if that's all good to go as we go through. So our next person is Matt Schlyder. And Matt previously did hold the record at $260,000. Tracey knocked him off just a few weeks ago. And Matt is rebranding his firm right now from Elliotts to Financially Well Organised. You can check out his website, financiallywellorganised.com. Matt, give us a quick summary on your firm and a brief pricing history.
Rob, we're a two-partner firm in Brisbane. Our revenue's around $3 million. We have 175 client groups, about 18 people in our business. Mainly just focusing on business clients. We have a specialist focus, though, in the areas of pharmacy and professional services firms, and more specifically into legal firms. We've basically canned charging by the hour, whilst we still record timesheets to measure efficiency on work and team member performance. Basically, all of our work is fixed price, and that's going right down from our normal compliance work, which is all inclusive, and any of our projects that we do for clients. We generally look to provide a number of options for our clients when we do project work, so that they can choose how they work with us.
And Matt, what I love about I love a lot of things about what you're up to. You know, is about I think 8 or 9 years ago you adopted a price up front approach. Would that be about right?
Yeah, it'd be about right, Rob.
And then over the years, because we've been working together now for 6 years, and Tracey just for the last 3, but over the last 6 years, you know, the change that I've seen in your firm has gone from, you know, an agreed price up front to value pricing certain projects, and now the last 2 years having what you call your annual accounting service, where, you know, every client is on an annual fixed price agreement. So, and that seems to be working quite well for you, I believe.
Yeah, it's great. We basically just look at what our normal compliance work is that we do with clients, and price it out for the year, then just fix that in stone, and clients pay us on the 1st of every month via direct debit. So we carry very small amount of WIP. Usually it's negative, and debtors are next to nothing because our direct deposits come in the same day we bill it every month. So and on our revenue management approach, it makes it so much easier, because how we now plan our revenue is very much via client number and project value. So gone are the days of worrying about, well, what's our revenue and cash flow going to be like this month or next month or the month after, because it's no longer really based on, you know, time being charged and recovered and work getting finished to be billed.
Awesome. Well, we're going to come back to that. Thanks, Matt. And our third person is Peter Locandro. ZJL Partners are the current reigning accounting firm of the year in the Proactive Accountants Network, and for a whole host of reasons. And one of them is that Peter currently holds the record. Although Tracey's got the biggest sale record, Matt's got the second biggest sale record. Mr. Locandro here has the biggest average hourly rate for value-added services record, averaging over the last 18 months average at about $2,400 an hour. So that's a value-based fees work. So Peter, give us a quick snapshot on ZJL and then a quick summary of your pricing history.
Yeah, sure, Rob. Thanks. ZJL, we're just a typical suburb in down at Noble Park in Melbourne. Our team, we have 4 partners, a total team of 12 now. Our team has probably doubled in the last couple of years, where we used to be the owners of a business doing a lot of the work, and over the last sort of 3 years, like I said, the team's doubled, and we're basically now to the extent of running a business similar to Matt, where everything is priced totally up front, and clients know up front what they're going to get and what they're going to pay. And our typical business client, you know, we have a lot of small to medium-sized businesses, and we also still do a lot of individual tax returns. So mainly around July, August, and even into September, we're a little bit like a medical practice in here, where they're turning over every half hour, and we have the team to do that and charge it accordingly. So our pricing structure's changed where we basically look at pricing up front, so both we and the clients know what the end result will be. More importantly, then we look at every single job of how we can do it quicker and better and more efficiently to basically get it out the door accordingly. And when you know a price in agreement, if you can do it quicker, it ultimately means more on the bottom line. So that's the sort of methods that we follow, if you like.
And Pete, for your business, the outcome of that has been, we started working together about 3.5 years ago, and if I recall, your average hourly rate was about $170, $180, for the client work done.
Yep.
I think that's about the number. And these days we're tracking at sort of $420, $450 for all work that you do as a result of your price upfront methodology and your efficiency methodology as well.
Yeah, totally agree. So, gone are the days. We, similar to Matt also, we still keep timesheets to manage or monitor productivity of the team and capacity, etc. But ultimately, that has no bearing on what the agreed price is up front. So, like I said, our biggest thing is how do we do a job quicker than last year, and if you can do that, ultimately your average hourly rate's going to drive up quite dramatically, and then it's also freed our time up as business owners to find opportunities and find other things that we can be doing with the clients that mean a hell of a lot more to them all, rather than just doing their tax returns.
Thank you, Pete. Well, I've brought you 3 superstars in the pricing area for accounting firms. These 3 certainly work together as well. They're in the same coaching club group. I've had the privilege of working with them for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years with Matt. And what I thought I'd do is to get them to open up a bit on some of the things they've been implementing in 3 key areas. And those 3 key areas are going to be around the value belief, because a lot of this pricing conundrum is going to be around, what you believe, what you believe the client will say if you change from price up front to from price and arrears to price up front, what you believe that how efficient that job can be done, what you believe in will the client accept an FPA, fixed price agreement, will they pay up front as a value belief, as well as that, how much do you believe the client will pay for this? So we're going to talk about value belief. We're going to talk about value perception. So, in getting to the right price and getting to a price that's consummate with your value or intellect or intellectual property, you've got to first believe it, and then the first sale is to yourself, and then you've got to put it across to your client and their perception of your value. And then lastly, your contribution, so to determine the price, this is art and science here. If we're going away from charge rates and time costing methodology, which is very archaic, which all 3 firms here used to do, but now do not, and they're getting extraordinary results, and maybe they'll talk about their journey of getting to this, you must understand the contribution you're making to your client so that you can articulate that contribution in advance, and then we can get and work out the ideal price and scope of work that the client will accept. So these are the 3 areas I'd like our panel of superstars here to talk about. So let's talk about, first of all, value belief. And let's talk about your own personal journey, Tracey, Matt, and Pete, on value belief. Trace, ladies before gentlemen, take it away. What's your journey on value belief? What's happened as a result of you personally before you get to go and price the job and talk to the client?
Thanks, Rob. Look, I think the key for me is that I had to get over myself, and my husband Jason very kindly has told me that many times. Trace, you've just got to get over yourself, because I think I had a whole lot more issue with the price than any of my clients have ever had, Rob. And for me, the value belief really comes down to making sure that in every concept that I think about with the client, I'm always putting the client first. I'm always focusing on what the outcome is for the client. And we spend a lot of time up front actually discussing with the client what outcome they want to achieve and what really is important to them. And I think if you can, for me, if when I was able to really articulate that and really sit down and understand the client in those ways, that the value belief just became more and more paramount in terms of I'm actually really providing a great outcome for this client and I'm providing an experience that they are loving. So it made it a whole lot easier for me to be able to increase the belief around the value that I was providing to the client.
So I'm going to make a promise here, Tracey, and the promise is, you know, we've got about 45 minutes left on this webinar. We're 15 minutes into it. The promise is by the end of it, firms will have tools, ideas, techniques, systems, methodology, mindset, etc., to go and do something different. And you've just pulled off a very large sale for $1 million firm at $320,000. Talk us through, not the detail of what that is, but your value belief around that, because that's a huge sum of money, and maybe tell a bit of the story as to how you got your belief to that area, to that size.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Rob. Look, the biggest sale we had done before the $320,000 that we landed just a little while ago was $97,000. And for the 320, it was, you know, obviously it's a huge amount of money, and the outcome for the client is a huge savings. We're talking about a $4.3 million benefit for the client over the next 10 to 15 years. So I knew that the outcome that we were able to provide the client was massive when I did the numbers. And for me, it came down to, well, you know, I could charge a much smaller fee, but I'm very confident of what I'm giving the client. So the belief came from discussing it, and I think it's really good to have a group of people that you can actually throw ideas around with and be able to throw the concept of what the client's going to get based on the transaction that we're actually employing. So it comes down to, you know, having I guess, the guts and courage to be able to step out there and be really confident and to back yourself all of the way to make it happen.
Okay. Matt, what about you on value? Thank you, Tracey. Value belief.
I think the bit that really has come home for me over many years is, as you know, Rob, I was in a practice with 10 partners, and I was lucky enough to, tongue in cheek, to be the first CEO of that practice. You know, moved away from the majority of client work, and what I really experienced at that time is sort of firsthand that I suppose difference between partners in a firm in terms of what they believe the work they did was worth. And what I learned really quickly in trying to, you know, change the KPIs around it in our old firm was that until the owners of the firm actually get a clear understanding of and believe it themselves as to what the value that they provide to our clients is, and it's not until they get that, nothing will really change.
And that firm, Matt, you know, you call your business a business, but I do believe that was a practice at other firms.
Oh, definitely, mate. When you turn up to practice.
Yeah, sure. So okay, understand from both of you so far that the owners have to get this, but how do you get it? How do you get value belief, Matt?
I think the starting point, Rob, is that people need to want to change. They want to get a different outcome. And you know, one of my favourite sayings is a fish rots from the head down. And what most practices do is they look at their business and they say, oh, we're just not getting all of these numbers. And the reason is because they don't believe it. So it really is just a change of mindset, and it's a matter of saying if enough is enough, let's take a punt and believe in what we do, and just do it. And I think until people want to make that change, there's nothing that will really change in terms of their belief in themselves.
Okay, thank you. Pete, your view on value belief, it all starts there.
Yeah, sure. Rob, yeah, I think the biggest thing, and that I agree with both Tracey and Matt, is just believing what you're doing with your clients is of greater value than what you actually think. Yeah, it's a big mindset change. Probably the biggest thing that dropped for us is both working with yourself, Rob, and Matt originally, and basically listening to Alan Weiss talk a few years back and reading his materials, and basically along the lines of that, sometimes I think accountants are actually scared of their clients in one way, because they fear that charging a fee of, I don't know, whatever it is too much for the client and they won't pay, rather than changing their mindset to actually show and explain to the client what they've done for them and what they're doing for them, not just today but in the future as well. And every accountant is very intelligent, otherwise they couldn't get through university and the various CPAs or institute programs, and they don't put value on that, and they're underselling themselves for what they're really doing with their existing clients. And the clients know what we're doing, but the more you explain it to them and the more that you reinforce, what's the benefit of having a trust, for example, then the more they appreciate it ultimately, and the more they want as well, which is the important thing. So I think it comes down to, just a mindset or a belief of what you're actually doing for your compliance or for your clients is not just a tax return. It's a lot more than that. And
sorry, Pete.
Once you get that, you're halfway there, if you like.
All three of you have talked about these belief systems, and I listen to accountants every day, guys, and as you do through the coaching club process where you're interacting all the time, you're at a different level to most because you're so many years down the track. And there's some of the 700 or 800 that are listening right now that are just getting started, may have priced a little bit up front, may have a high belief in themselves, I don't know. But this level of chatter, this self-belief system goes on, where people say, our charge rates are in line with others, or, I'm too busy, I'll just charge by the hour. These beliefs going on in their head. It'll probably take X hours, so we'll charge Y, thinking that's the right way to do it. I can get it done really fast, so I'll just charge less. There's too much time on the clock because we better write off. Again, the belief system around write-offs. Or I'm afraid what the client will think, as you said, Pete, scared of their clients. What if they say no to me? Well, they probably will at some point in time, and my clients will never pay that much. All this chatter going on, and where do you think it comes from, guys? Like, where do these belief systems come from? Because I know I've been educating the opposite to this, but where does it come from? Pete, do you know where these belief systems come from?
I'd probably say a lot of it starts with what you learn at university, and when you're a young pup out of school and you basically are sitting at a desk, and those old bosses that you used to work for basically say, this is what your charge out rate is, and this is the job you need to get done, and you were held accountable if you didn't do it within a certain time. Or I think it actually starts back then, Rob, and it just keeps on filtering through life because no one does anything different ultimately. And just because you win a client and they've come from a business where they paid $300 and it was too much, you think you have to do it for $260. Or maybe they've left that business because they didn't get the service. They actually are happy to pay more if they get a lot more service from you as your accountant. So I think that's where a lot of it comes from.
Matt, where do you think the belief systems come from?
I agree with Pete. I think it's, I call it, it's just a game of Chinese whispers. You know, there was years and years ago, before computers and time recording, there was, you know, a pricing that was just done on a job, and that's what the price was. And then gradually, as time has gone on, the messages have been passed down, and messages have changed all the way along. You know, tweaking this and reasons why we can't do that, or there's this barrier, and eventually it's got to you know, the industry where it is today, and that story now is extremely different to what it was many years ago, when, you know, when that first person in the line of the Chinese whispers game started telling the story. And I think people are just, I think people use our current, you know, the current industry norm as an excuse. The reality is, if you look at every other industry that's out there, most industries in the world and most businesses in the world charge on a price per job, as opposed to how many hours that are made up on it. You know, you only got to go back to the charging by the hours process of time, you know, by rate times recovery, and people call that a time costing system. And I don't know about you, but to me, cost is expense and not revenue. So even the name of it's wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it's just, yeah, one of those things that have always, it's just got worse and worse, and people haven't, they don't really understand, or they don't really believe that there's another way.
And you know, Matt, and Pete and Tracey as well, we just released our annual benchmark report last week, and it's the first time I've seen in 11 years a average profit decline per partner, not with our coaching firms, they went up, but in the general industry that are not part of doing what we do, as a drop in profit per partner, where every year since I've been benchmarking firms for 11 years, an increase. So maybe it's time, yeah, we need to change some old bad habits here and make a difference. So, Tracey, what's your thoughts on the pricing beliefs?
Yeah, look, I agree with both Matt and Pete, Rob. I think that it is a learned behaviour, and I think that also, though, I think sometimes we have a fear of failing, and accountants, by our very nature, we're transactional. We do a transaction and we get an outcome, and I think that it's easy to do transactions, and it's easy, as one of your points there, you know, get it done really fast, and afraid of what the client will think. And we don't want to fail in the eyes of our clients. We don't want to lose clients because we feel like we need to keep hold of them. And I think that clients don't want to buy a transaction. They want to buy the entire experience. As Pete said, you know, clients will be often quite happy to pay a higher fee because they want a high level of service than what they've previously been provided or received from their other accountants. So I think it's really back to my point that I made at the beginning, we have to get over ourselves as an accounting profession, and we have to start listening to exactly what our clients want.
Absolutely. Okay, so a couple of quick questions before we get to our next bit. So this one is, first of all, for you, Tracey. Do you provide and receive a signed engagement letter from clients? Yes, we do. So if it's it's either under an authority to proceed or a terms of engagement. Great, thank you. Matt, question for you. Does the client arrange the direct debit of fees, or does the firm?
We do. We get them to sign do a direct debit authority form, and we process that every month.
Okay, great, thank you. Peter, is H&R Block a competitor for your returns?
No.
Okay, so the next question was how do you overcome that, so not a question. All of you, how did you convert your engagement process? So start with you, Pete. So from Maria's point of view.
Yeah, sure. So how we, so how we first introduced it, Rob, is that right?
Yep, correct, yep.
Yeah, so what we basically did is we used, a couple of years back, we used Christmas as a good period, where just before Christmas we shot a letter out ultimately to our clients. Or first we changed our mindset I suppose, us partners, that's something that we wanted to do. And we basically created a letter which went out to every single client just before Christmas, along the lines of, you know, why we believed that charging in arrears was not fair and equitable to both us and to them, because ultimately the longer I took a job, the longer I got paid, and that from the new calendar year that this is how it would work, along the lines of bring your work in, we'll have a look at it and scope the job, and ultimately we'll send you an engagement letter up front, and we even go to an extent further where we offer a discount for payment up front before even the job's started. Client signs off on that, so we both know where we're at, and off you go and do the job as quickly as practically possible.
Now, and for the fullness of time, we've got a lot to cover here. I know the other two have will answer very similar to that. Just got one quick question here regarding the pricing, because the value belief, some people have a struggle with this. And the question is, don't the courts also assess reasonable fees based on hours? Matt, your view on that?
How often do you go to court?
Thank you very much. That's the
and I suppose I'll add to that, Rob. We've also had our quality assurance done a couple of times, and the CPAs have come across it all and have had no problems with it either.
Yeah, great. No, that's a standard answer. A couple other questions we'll come back to. Okay, so let's give a quick round table from the three of you. How much do you charge? Just give a couple of examples, maybe Pete with your super funds, maybe Matt with some of your financially well-organised projects, ballpark, and the question is, how much do you charge for, and just give a simple project that you might do on a regular basis, vis-a-vis how much you used to charge before changing your process. Tracey, take it away. Something off the top of your head.
Yeah, sure. So one of the common things that we do, Rob, is a property restructure. So business premises that are sitting outside of self-managed super, and we transfer them into self-managed super, either using bank borrowing or related party borrowing. And traditionally we were just charging, well, originally we were charging $2 or $3 grand for that, maybe up to about $5 grand, and now we're regularly charging 20, 30, 40 grand.
And feedback from clients?
They're very happy with it, Rob, because we've shown them the value that we're adding to them, which comes back to value perception and value contribution.
Thank you, exactly right. Matt, some examples from you?
I think probably the best one is the business strategy work I do with clients. So I basically provide them, for most clients it goes that it's to do a review of their business, charge them usually either $5 or $7.5 grand, and then the next option on top of that is to do some more strategy work with them, and get some projections. That's usually somewhere between 15 to 20. And then in terms of that option, they also meet with me once a quarter for $1,500 a month, and we do a little bit of reporting for them on a monthly basis. Or alternatively, they can meet with me every 6 weeks for $3 grand a month. So yeah, that's.
And what would you have used to charge years ago when you got started with this journey, Matt? What would you charge for that sort of work?
Oh, the hard one. It's, you know, you'd really just go horses for courses. You might make $5,000 or $6,000 out of doing a review and getting some projections done, and you know, maybe $750 a month to catch up with them. And often you do that. You try to catch up with them every month.
So it could be double or treble compared to where you are. Double or treble less.
Yeah, or more. Yeah.
One more. Pete, for you?
Yeah, sure. Probably super's a big area where we sort of specialise in, and even if it's just for a normal compliance job, for example, where we maybe used to charge $1,000, that's at least doubled or tripled with a lot of clients. And it's not so much that you're doing anything different, it's actually valuing it differently, and it's sitting down with the clients and incorporating other stuff in it, which ultimately leads to new projects. And it's amazing when I think one of the biggest things we've learned is clients are hungry to find out ideas and things like that, and when you actually sit down with them, you generally pick up 2 or 3 pieces of other work that you can ultimately do for them that leads to more revenue. So it's all about sort of educating them with what you can do rather than what you are doing, if you like. And that's probably the biggest difference that we've had.
Awesome. Thank you, Pete. So the second part of our journey is going to be value perception, and certainly putting this across to the clients. And I know, Pete, you're an absolute gun at this, and that's one of the reasons you get such high margins on your value-based fees work, is realizing that, you know, you can do a task like set up a super fund, or alternatively do a cash flow, a budget, set up compliance, a planning day, whatever it is, the task. But unless you articulate your value around that and then articulate what the client gets out of it, then all you're going to get is going to be, you know, an hourly rate essentially. And what we have encouraged you with is to actually go into talking about, you know, at the outset, if possible, how much profit they will make, management decisions they can make, you know, getting peace of mind, saving tax, generating new cash, improving lifestyle, you know, achieving goals, success, and wealth, you know, wealth creation as well. So, you know, and this is all about, and also protecting assets, this is all about articulating your value before you do the job. So, Tracey, just talk us through a couple of quick examples on how you've articulated value before you've gone and priced the job.
Thanks, Rob. Look, we start with where our clients are at now. So we have a very lengthy discussion with the clients around, you know, where they currently are at and where they idealistically would like to be in the future. And all of the things that you've got on the page there, Rob, they're all outcomes. None of those are transactions. We're not selling a profit and loss statement, and we're not selling a trust structure. We're not selling a cash flow forecast. What we're selling is a journey, and it's their financial future. And I think it all comes down to what they want to achieve and, you know, where they want to see themselves in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And then the value becomes a whole lot higher in their mind because they can actually picture themselves in the future and picture that journey.
Now this is important, Tracey, because I've just had 2 questions come through, essentially the same thing, which is, you know, what happens if you get the price wrong? What happens on the managed information? There's more work in it, and it's outside of scope. What you've just said is that you're scoping this at the outset, and I would imagine that the fee is going to be somewhat bigger, and, you know, probably not going to matter if you make an error in the actual pricing. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely, Rob. Look, I think the key with any pricing is that there's no right price or wrong price at the end of the day. It's just a price. And if you are constantly worried about getting the price right, then you'll procrastinate so much about what the price should be that you'll actually never get any price out there in the first place. And I think that, you know, all of us are on a journey ourselves with it from a pricing point of view, and what I might charge as a price will be completely different to what you might charge, Rob. So I think if you've understood what the client wants to achieve and you've got sufficient value perception there with the client and you know, value reality even more than perception, then the price is not going to matter so much. And if there's a little bit of scope increase, then that's okay as well, because you have got enough in there to start with, is my belief.
Matt, your views on that, on value perception and the whole setting the price and the scope side of things?
I think when it comes to value, I think what a lot of people get caught up in is they get concerned about what the value is that they provide, or what the value is, and they look at the fee and say, well, what's the value for that? The most powerful question that you can ask any client is, so if you can achieve those objectives, what does that mean for you? Because ultimately, that's what you need to do needs to align back to what they're wanting to achieve, and your price needs to be considered in light of the value that they place on it. So if I see a lot with people is, you know, often they want the sale more than what the client wants to buy, and the reality is that if the client doesn't prescribe a significant value to something, then they're not going to part with their cash to achieve it. So when it comes to value perception, quite often it's got really nothing to do what you think the perception of value is. It's really only what the client's perception is that, you know, that really matters.
Exactly. And your view, Pete, on value perception and the whole price conundrum?
Yeah, very similar to both Tracey and Matt. Value perception to us comes down to, are you actually explaining to the client the value that you're giving them, and that's what it comes down to, because, you know, many people may set up a super fund in pension mode, for example, and there are huge even tax savings for that for a client. But unless you actually come down and explain that to the nth degree to a client, well, they don't really understand a lot of the times what they're possibly doing or why they're paying that amount. So it comes down to talking to your clients, understanding their goals and objectives, and then you delivering a service or a product to help them achieve that. And the perception, you know, out there is that you can't do this and can't do that, when the clients are very, very happy if a result is achieved ultimately, and rather than what it took to do a result. So I think that's the biggest thing that we've noticed to an extent.
Excellent, thank you. We've got questions streaming through, very technical questions that I'm going to answer in the following way. A lot of these questions are around fixed price agreements. You know, how do you actually do those? How do you get the team involved? How do you articulate, you know, that letter that, you know, send a letter to your client that you mentioned, Pete, earlier on at Christmas time? You know, and I'm just going to spend 3 minutes talking about how that how it works. I made a promise at the start, and that is, you know, walking away with methods and tools, and we've still got a lot to go here. But many of you are asking, and that's the nature of your questions coming through, which we can't answer all of them, is how do you create these sort of results in your business? You know, and the reality is you can either do it slow, you can choose to do it the slow way, or trial and error. You know, you can suck it and see type things, or ultimately you can get into it and do it fast. And as these three firms have had some personal coaching from me, what we decided to do was to help you create a shortcut and get a shortcut around, you know, how can we implement these ideas quickly in our firms, wherever you are around the world, so that you can get, you know, far greater results. So what we did, with the help of a bunch of accountants, we created this toolkit called Pricing Power, and it has, you know, everything we've learned working with the types of firms here, 11 modules to it on actually how to make this happen. You know, how to price up front, how to introduce pricing up front, how to raise prices, how to do fixed price agreements that a lot of you are asking for in your questions, you know, creating capacity, value pricing, and this is a training program for you and your team members. It comes with workbook and resources, you know, great questions to ask, role plays, comes with templates for implementation plans for sending things to clients, comes with a new client questionnaire, a whole host of tools that you can work with your team to change the way your pricing works, because a lot of the questions you're asking here are all about, you know, or how do you make all this happen. So a full toolkit that involves a DVD program that would normally sell for like $1,500, audio program 300, transcripts, template letters, scripting, questions. We've done like years of research on this, role plays here, and all up you'd be paying thousands for this. And what we've done with this pack is made it $990, and certainly we're going to come back to the three accountants in a moment. $990, and as a bonus, we will also for today furnish you with a price list where we had 285 services priced by 300 firms. We collected the median prices, and this is very much a by accountants for accountants product that looking at exactly what firms are charging for what services. So pretty cool. It's all available to use straight away. And just look at that quick 3-minute commercial, and now we'll go back to our regular program. So that is going to be available for you. So I want to talk about this next part on value contribution. How do we get to value contribution? And the value contribution, and I want to come back to these bigger sales, like Peter's average hourly rate sales of $2,000 plus per hour when he works it back. Matt's big sales that he's made, and also Tracey's very big sale at $320,000, which was over the span of a few months, which is just getting started right now. And as we look at, and Tracey mentioned this before, buying decisions, are they rational or are they emotional? And Tracey mentioned two things about inputs and outputs, or activities and results. And when we look at this, inputs are things like analysis and advice and budgets, tax planning, end-of-year statements, meetings, valuations, consulting, structuring, and time. They're all things, they're all input. But outputs, what we talked about before, being profit, growth, cash flow, security, wealth, financial retirement, success, peace of mind, lifestyle, and hope. So I'd like to understand, when it comes to value contribution, how are the three of you working out your contribution before you go and set a price? So Tracey, let's talk about the $320,000 one. You mentioned 4.3 briefly. How did you work that out before you set the price?
So we, as I mentioned before, Rob, we spend quite a long time in our client engagement process, and I think that we've designed that engagement process so that we can really understand as many things about the client as we can before we even go to price. And if a new client was to phone me today and say, I want to do a super fund and I want to do a restructure, how much is it going to cost? Then my answer to them is, well, I don't know. I really don't know how much it's going to cost until I've sat down and found out what outcome you're wanting to achieve, because I don't know if it's appropriate for you in the first place. So I think that you've really got to understand what part of those outputs or outcomes that the client is after. And then we actually have a few templates that we've created over the years, which kind of compare the before situation and the after situation, Rob. So we've got with the big $320,000 sale that we did, we knew everything about the client now. We knew that what the outcome was going to be for the client, and that was paying more tax than they've ever earned in their entire lifetime as revenue, versus the outcome if we were able to implement our recommendations, and that was to reduce that tax down quite considerably, 4.3 mil. So we were able to then say to the client, well, our value contribution is to take you from point A, which is where you're at now, all the way through to point B, which is where we'll get you. That's what we're doing for you. And so with that discussion with the client, they were more than happy to go on that journey, because they could see that the end result was where they wanted to be, and they were, they signed the authority to proceed the same day we were there when we presented the price.
And Tracey, over what period of time, because you're in the middle of implementing this project right now, over what period of time from sign off to final implementation will this project be?
Yeah, so it's about a 6 or 7 month project, Rob, and that's predominantly because there's some property development in there as well. So it's a little bit longer because there's some things outside of our time frame control. But in terms of if it was all ready to go now, it would probably be about a 1 month implementation. Okay,
great, thank you. Peter, over to you regarding understanding your contribution to the value, and then going to setting the price. And I'd like you to focus on your super fund work, if you would, please.
Yeah, sure. So it's a lot to do with what Tracey said as well, where you need to understand the goals and objectives of the clients, and ultimately what they're trying to achieve, not just this year, but for the medium to long term. To do with superannuation, for example, the classic thing out there at the moment is many people are losing a lot of money simply because they don't understand that they have options, and options might be, you know, different types of portfolios within their superannuation at the moment. It might be an option of creating their own self-managed super, the ability to turn it into pension mode, the ability to have insurances going through it in case something was to happen. And until you actually sit down with clients and give them that one-on-one thing, I mean, we use very powerful techniques with simple things like Excel and a whiteboard. It's not that difficult to do, but clients want to know what else they can achieve. You know, that they don't just want a tax return done, or they don't just want something, they want something that makes a difference for their future and that type of stuff. And when you explain all that to them and give them the options, it's amazing what they get out of it. They're wrapped with the whole service that they're getting. So it's more just digging down and finding out, you know, the client's dreams and peace of minds and hopes that they're trying to achieve. It's just no one out there is showing them how to achieve them ultimately, or giving them the road to go down. So I think that's very, very important with super fund work or with any work that you're trying to do.
Awesome. Thank you. And Matt, when it comes to your value contribution before you're setting price, an example, maybe it's your $260,000, $250,000 sales that you've been doing, or the other many, 20, 30, 51 that you do. How are you doing that?
Rob, I think I think that the key is you've got to be willing to give people time at the very front end, and you've also got to be willing to educate them around what's possible. And before you even go to pricing, you've got to make sure that they clearly understand the outcomes, they clearly understand the value, you know, whether or not that's you know, something that's qualitative, or whether or not you can quantify it. But that for me is I think the biggest thing that you've got to do is you've got to be willing to give them time to start with, because I think too many people rush into you know, rush to get out the door, rush to say this is the price, and wonder why they don't get the sales. You know, for a new client, I once I've qualified them to make sure that they are suitable to be a client, I'll invest up to a day of my time to get to know them and to understand what's possible for them before we even talk price and before we even work out what it is that they want to achieve and how we go about doing that.
It's interesting to say that, Matt, because I just had two questions come through regarding scoping the work and or the new client. And the questions are, how much time is given to scope the work? And the second one is, you know, do you charge for that? What if they don't become a client, or they don't choose to go ahead with the engagement? What's your views on that?
Well, that's just part of doing business. You know, Rob, as you know, with our annual accounting service as an example, what we have included in that is unlimited telephone calls and emails for clients, and we don't price any of that in. We don't add something into our fees for that. And the reason is we want people to be talking to us. If people think that you're going to bill them just to come and talk to them, then their first reaction is going to be not to. So I look at the lifetime value of a client, and I look at the length of time I have with my clients, and they're some of them 20, 30 years. In our firm, we've got clients that have been with us. What Michael's 53, that have been with him since he was 20 years old. So you look at the lifetime value of the client, and if you can't actually give them a couple of hours, in my view is if you can't give them a day, then look at the revenue you're going to miss out on, not what you don't recover on those hours in a day.
And interesting. Tracey, this big sale you made, how much time did you invest before, and I do believe that the client was not in your city or your town, how much time before you actually got the sale?
So it would have been about 10 to 12 hours, Rob, before we actually got the sale. And that was just understanding the client, understanding the scope of the work that could be done, meeting with them. I had a 2.5-hour meeting with them just to get to know them before we even talked about any transactional or any scope of any work that could be done. And that was just learning about them and what was important to them. So 10 to 12 hours went into it before we even got to price. And we don't charge for that time. So if the client said no, then that's time that we've invested in our sales process, essentially.
Well, you've got to back yourself, haven't you?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And for you, your comments on that one, Pete, regarding investing time in scoping projects before you put a price to them?
Yeah, sure. I probably follow the philosophy very similar to Tracey and Matt. My thing that I'd throw in is how long is a piece of string? Ultimately, unless you're talking to your clients or scoping what they're after, how do you actually know what they want to do? And totally agree with Matt that if you charge for every 5 minutes that you talk to them, they're going to basically deter talking to you, and that's the worst thing for any relationship to happen. So I think it's very important that it needs to be open, and you take as long as you need. Some you'll win, some you'll lose. Get over it ultimately.
So we're about to wrap up over the next 2 minutes, and just I'm going to ask you all for just like a quick 15-second word of advice, and around this subject of pricing, value belief, value perception, value contribution, all the other questions. The questions have just been streaming through, guys. They've been such a hit. We are not able to answer them in this time because I know your time is valuable and you've given up your time to be with the profession today, which is just awesome. Those other questions can be certainly answered through our product because all the questions that have been asked have been dealt with before. We think you should do that straight away. But just in relation to the three of you, what one word of advice or one short phrase when it comes to pricing, value articulation, setting price, being scared about this thing, whatever it is, what would you say to the accounting professional listening here right now? Matt, you go first.
You're killing yourselves because it's with the mindset of having to recover every hour that you're working. You've only got to read some of those questions. They're all based around giving away time and information. You're killing yourself trying to make a really decent profit when what you should be looking at is being selective around who you work with and the type of work that you do, and you get paid appropriately for it.
Awesome. Well, Matt, I know you've got to shake off, and I really appreciate you staying an extra 15 minutes than you said you were going to stay. Your contribution back to the industry is just awesome, so thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Pete, your one word, one phrase, one sentence, word of advice to the professional listening in today.
Very similar to Matt. Back yourself, believe in yourself, and believe in the work that you can do with your clients. Because if you don't believe in it, they certainly won't.
Awesome. Thanks, Pete. And Tracey, for you.
For me, Rob, it's about putting the client first and the client's outcome first. At every point you can add value to the client, educate them so that they can understand what the outcome will look like, and have a servant's heart. The fees will take care of themselves if you look after the client in the right way.
Well, thank you, guys. Thank you so much for your contribution. Really appreciate your time today. I know you're all busy. Know that you've got a client meeting or something to get to today to maybe make another project or do some interesting work. So certainly the offer on the pricing product, because I know all three of you used that as part of your education, the original one that is, and the new education you've had direct as well. So guys, thank you so much. Looking forward to hearing more of your successes and talking to you all soon. All the best, and thank you everyone for listening in. Really appreciate your time today. Hope you got a tremendous amount of value out of our hour of power together. All the best, and bye-bye.